We have some major updates on Operation Epic Fury in Iran, Ilhan Omar's financial disclosure, and the not-so-moderate Abigail Spanberger. All that and more right now. Welcome back to the Republic Brothers podcast. He's Matt, I'm Mike. Today is April 20th, 2026, and this is episode 50. Please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next episode on Thursday. All right, Matt, let's kick off the show here with Operation Epic Fury and Iran. The 2-week ceasefire that has been loosely holding is set to expire tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. While Pakistan has been trying to facilitate a second round of peace talks in Islamabad, the prospects are currently looking grim. As of this morning, Iran has signaled it will not send negotiators to Pakistan. President Trump has reportedly stated he is not considering an extension of the ceasefire beyond the current deadline.
I just spoke with President Trump for about 20 minutes, and he told me if Iran does not sign this deal, the whole country is getting blown up. He went on to say that bridges and power plants will be targeted if Iran does not sign this agreement. The president telling me that U.S. Special Envoys Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are heading to Islamabad, Pakistan for meetings on Tuesday, possibly into Wednesday, to try and get this agreement across the finish line. The president telling Fox News this is a very simple deal, but this is the last chance for the Iranians. The president very clear in our conversation that he is not making the same mistake that President Obama made, giving cash to the Iranians and allowing them to continue a nuclear program.
Iran has attempted to consolidate control over the Strait of Hormuz by implementing a system where vessels must pay security fees, reportedly around $2 million, and comply with IRGC protocols to receive priority transit. The U.S. Navy is enforcing a distant blockade, turning away ships bound for Iranian ports. Since last week, CENTCOM reports that at least 23 vessels have been intercepted or forced to change course. Over the weekend, the United States military seized and boarded an Iranian-flagged container ship that reportedly tried to outrun the blockade. Iran has condemned this as armed piracy and threatened to retaliate. Late last week, there was a brief moment of optimism when Iran claimed it would reopen the strait during the truce, but this was quickly clarified as applying only to vessels following their specific rules. Here was the clip from CENTCOM on that container ship seizure.
Motor vessel Touska, vacate your engine room. Vacate your engine room. We're prepared to subject you to disabling fire.
And we're back with a Fox News alert on new video near the Strait of Hormuz. Moments ago, CENTCOM posted this footage of the U.S. intercepting an Iranian-flagged cargo ship. President Trump says a Navy destroyer stopped the vessel by blowing a hole in its engine room after it ignored repeated warnings to stop.
Well, to be fair, they were warned several times. Now, this happened on Sunday, April 19th, and marked the first time since the blockade began that the U.S. has physically taken custody of an Iranian vessel. The ship was traveling in the North Arabian Sea. After it loaded in China, it was en route from Malaysia toward an Iranian port. According to CENTCOM, there was a 6-hour standoff where the Touska ignored repeated warnings to turn back. After the ship refused to comply, several rounds went directly into the Touska's engine room to disable its propulsion. Once the ship was dead in the water, United States Marines from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit rappelled from helicopters onto the deck and took full control. President Trump noted on social media that the Touska was specifically targeted not just for breaking the blockade, but because it was already under U.S. Treasury sanctions for a prior history of illegal activity.
Anytime you announce a blockade of something, the other side will always test it. You have to send a ship through to see the response. This was the right response from the Navy. This is a clear message that we will shoot if we have to. I was always a bit skeptical that Iran would make a deal and reopen the straits. And the announcement that it was fully open shocked me a bit. When it closed, less than 48 hours later, there was no shock. Trump has given the regime in Iran a chance to negotiate. They've just decided against it.
Do you think this is going to get to a point where we actually start taking out Iran's bridges and power plants?
I do. As we have said before, they hate us with every fiber of their body, and a negotiated deal will essentially be surrender at this point. That is something I think they see as unacceptable. Trump won't have an option but to resume military operations, and the targets may be the things that will help force regime change from within, if Israel hasn't already done it themselves. Trump will try to set the conditions for the people in Iran to rise up, as he said in his first press conference when he announced the first strikes. Taking out power plants will hurt the regime. Energy is everything, and it was quite an unconventional way of going about this by the U.S. and Israel to leave the energy infrastructure out of the first round of strikes. Normally, energy is the first thing you hit to starve the military machine of your enemy.
But if we take out their energy infrastructure, isn't that going to have an impact on the citizens of Iran? How does the Trump administration navigate all the flack they're going to catch for that? And how are the people of Iran going to feel about that?
It would be a calculated strike from Trump. You know the people in Iran are already suffering. Do you want to make it worse with the hopes that they will overthrow their own regime? I think that's the calculus here. While it will hurt the civilian population, it will hurt the regime even more. Dictatorships always prioritize the government, so when energy is taken offline, it will be taken from civilians to keep the energy machine moving for the military. I think the calculus has changed. I can't see any deal being made, so I don't know what other options Trump has here. I can't see this regime making a deal, given how much hatred they have for the U.S. and Israel.
Yeah, I don't see Iran backing down, and I'm starting to get to the place where I think this is starting to go on too long, and at this point, I think we need to take drastic measures. I think we need to attack the bridges. We need to take out the energy infrastructure. We need a knockout punch to get this over with.
Well, you can have ceasefires, but that just delays everything. It's similar to Russia and Ukraine. The sides are so far apart, a ceasefire isn't going to last. It is starting to drag on, and it would be wise of Trump to deliver the knockout blow, if he's capable of doing it.
All right, let's move on to some other not-so-shocking news we just learned.
Well, it's a bit suspicious to have your net worth go up by millions and then just recently say that it's an error. I mean, I don't think I've ever put 2 extra zeros as an error when I file any report. So Ilhan Omar, we know who she is. We know that she's like the king, the queen of the fraud, actually. And so Ilhan Omar, no respect to her whatsoever.
Yeah.
So what exactly is Nick Shirley talking about in that clip? Recent updates to Representative Ilhan Omar's financial disclosures. In her initial 2024 financial disclosure that was filed in May of 2025, Omar's reported assets showed a jump from roughly $51,000 in 2023 to between $6 million and $30 million in 2024. Omar says the increase was tied to her husband's ownership in 2 businesses. This led to a formal request for her records from the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, who raised concerns about potential unknown individuals investing to gain influence. This past weekend, Omar filed an amended disclosure that effectively wiped out that $30 million figure. In other words, she said, "Oh no, I've been caught," and she needed to change some things around. The revised filing shows her and her husband's shared assets are worth between $18,000 and $95,000. Omar's legal team attributed the massive discrepancy to an accounting error. They claim the original filing listed the total value of the entire businesses instead of her husband's ownership stake. So that leaves just one question. Matt, are you buying that?
Not even a little bit. She is supposed to be for the people and claims to have a net worth under $100,000. But on her salary, that means she is terrible with money. She is making $174,000 a year and has been for 6 years. That is not counting any money her husband made. The claim she has no money is completely false. She most likely transferred the money elsewhere, where she has a chance of saying it wasn't hers. She filed those claims with it saying she was worth millions and didn't notice it was off by millions of dollars in her own scenario. No, she is lying and doesn't want people to look into how she got all that money.
Yeah, like Nick Shirley said, she is the queen of fraud. Would anyone be shocked if they found out that Omar was hiding money?
No.
We still don't even know if that apple cider vinegar was real or not. She's trying to tell us that a professional accountant and her whole team, herself included, made at a minimum, $15 million mistake. I'm not buying that for 1 second. And it's funny that she comes out and says this was a mistake right after people start asking questions. Kind of like those daycares as soon as Nick Shirley showed up.
I don't know about you, Mike, but if my accountant, which is myself, made a $15 million mistake, I'd fire myself. The fact it took years and some attention on her to realize the mistake makes me think it wasn't a mistake. As I said, they went back and amended the filing so she is someone who can claim to be like the people, which is not a multimillionaire politician. I don't buy it for 1 second. Not on the salary she's been on for as long as she's been on it. How much of that net worth that she said when it was 15 to 30 million came from fraud and how much of it came from insider trading? Will we ever know? Politicians of all breeds love some insider trading. I'm going to guess she's part of that group as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it would be far-fetched to think that she's part of it. I mean, at this point, we have a pretty good idea that she's involved with the fraud in Minnesota in some way. So this is not out of bounds. Let's move on to our next thing here. April 13th, 2026, Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger signed a bill that officially entered Virginia into the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. The law changes how Virginia awards its 13 electoral votes for president. Virginia will now pledge its electoral votes to the winner of the national popular vote. Now, the bill doesn't take effect immediately. It only kicks in once enough states have joined the compact to reach a majority of the Electoral College. That's 270 votes. With Virginia's addition, the compact now has 222 electoral votes from 18 states and D.C. Now, supporters argue it ensures one person, one vote, and makes every voter in every state relevant, rather than just focusing on swing states. Although that idea is already flawed. If more people in Virginia vote for candidate A, but candidate B gets more votes in the rest of the country, then candidate B gets all the electoral votes, even though the majority of Virginians voted for candidate A. How that seems fair to the not-so-moderate Spanberger, I don't know. Even if the compact reaches 270 votes, it's almost certainly going to face a challenge in the Supreme Court. Critics are arguing that it violates the compact clause, which requires congressional consent for interstate agreements, and the fundamental structure of the Electoral College.
This is Democrats being very confident that the liberals in coastal cities will turn out to vote. They probably would in a scenario like this if it were law. If all the blue-haired libs know they just need enough of them to turn up and the Democrats win, they will. Even if they don't, maybe you can stuff a few extra votes in while we oppose voter ID laws. Then the left will always be in power, and then they can silence your opinion on anything they don't want to talk about. We saw the Biden administration do that through social media. The Biden administration put immense pressure through regulation on social media companies. Do you think there is no chance that would happen again if there was a Democrat president?
Yeah, Democrats are real good about trying to silence anyone that doesn't agree with them. Now, what are they going to say if this starts backfiring on them and Republicans are still winning? Imagine if this was in effect in 2024 and the whole state voted for Harris, but since Trump won the popular vote, all their electoral votes go to Trump. They would all freak out.
You are assuming they can think that far ahead. They hate Trump so much that they already forgot he won the popular vote. The mandate thing Trump said was all made up in their head. There was no way anyone could vote for someone like Trump to them. I think the few Democrats who can think for themselves No, this likely won't hold up to the challenges coming its way if it goes into law. Seems kind of crazy to think that as a representative for your state, you are willing to give up your voice for the national party. Republicans would never do that, rightly so. But they miss the entire point of the Electoral College. It's to ensure liberal elites and coastal elites don't dictate policy for the entire nation, because we can all agree people living in Los Angeles probably don't know how farms work. People in Iowa understand that far better.
Yeah, and we certainly don't want the people living in LA to dictate the laws for the rest of us.
Because the laws that work for LA will not work anywhere else.
Yep. Well, as we come to the end of the show, I want to mention the government shutdown real quick. We're both so tired of talking about this, so this is just a way to say that we are up to 65 days as of today, and still no end in sight.
And it doesn't appear that anything's going to change that. I would imagine the reconciliation bill Republicans will go at alone will probably be the only chance to fund DHS. Bit of a shorter episode today. It's time for the blind ranking segment now. Going back to an old category for you, Mike. Politicians you would most want as your governor. You're going to blind rank them 1 to 5. The first name up is John Fetterman.
I don't hate John Fetterman. He has a level head. He is technically a Democrat.
For how much longer, though?
Yeah, the question is, who else is coming? I'm going to play it safe and put Fetterman at 3.
Number 3. All right, next up, you have the very, very moderate Democrat, Abigail Spanberger.
Yikes. She's probably not the worst at this point. I can think of a few that could be worse, so I'm going to put her at 4.
Not the worst, okay. Next to name up, Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz. He's obviously either 1 or 2.
Taking a chance here, huh?
Yeah. I can play it safe and put him at 1, or I can take a risk and put him at 2. I'm going to put Ted Cruz at 1.
Going number 1, all right. I know where the next one is going, Ilhan Omar.
Number 5. See, I told you it could be worse than Spanberger.
I think you'll be happy with your list. The last name up, going in your number 2 spot, is Greg Abbott, governor of Texas.
Yeah, I think that's pretty solid, to be honest. I don't think there's anybody I'd switch around.
So you would go Ted Cruz over Greg Abbott?
I think it's pretty close.
Okay.
I don't. You could flip flop those or not. I think it's not too much of a change.
So Ted Cruz at 1, Greg Abbott at 2, John Fetterman 3, Abigail Spanberger 4, and Ilhan Omar 5.
Yep, nailed it.
I think you did well there.
All right, well, that's it for episode 50 of the Republic Brothers podcast. Before you click away, please hit the subscribe and follow button. New episodes drop every Monday and Thursday. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.